this is Ginny with Nutrition University. I just got back from a trip that took me out of town, had been on a flight for 6.5 hours, came home after being away for 10 days, and guess what? My refrigerator was completely empty, and I was absolutely starving. As you may recall from our most recent top 10 videos, not having enough time is in the top 10 and kind of a recurring theme for people when they are trying to switch to a plant-based lifestyle or when they're just trying to eat healthier in general. So today I thought I would talk about my favorite go-to super fast, takes less than 3 minutes grain that I use in order to give myself something to eat when time is really tight or when I'm really starving. This is also a bit of a shout out to my niece who just went off to college and said, Aunt Ginny, you need to do some videos on how to eat when you're at college. So you can do this, use this item whether you are in college, whether you are in a small apartment or a dorm room that doesn't have any access to real stoves and real cooking. And what I'm talking about is something called couscous. Now, generally I talk about ingredients when I do talk about ingredients, which is not very often, because just a reminder, I am not a food scientist. I am not Rachel Ray. I am just giving you quick and easy plant-based items that you can use and that won't take a lot of time for you. So this is called couscous. You can find it in any bulk area in any supermarket. It's also in the Bob's Red Mill area of many supermarkets or in the organic section. But it's really just a very small grain that, to be honest, the nutrition equivalent is really white rice. So is this your best, most nutrient dense option? No. Is it something that you can eat in a pinch? Yes. And it is something that I eat not very often, but I do sometimes use it when I'm just starving. And really, if my choice is something like white rice or not eating at all or having something that's really not good for me, this is going to be my option. As you can see, it's just it's yellow. It's a very small grain. I have it here stored in my favorite way of storing my grains, which is in a glass jar. This happens to be a peanut butter jar, and the reason I like them is because I have a drawer where I keep all of my grains. And if I turn this upside down, like magic, I can see inside, and it's not plastic, so I don't have to worry about any plastic problems. So I keep it in my jar, and then when I'm starving, like I was the other day when I came home, take it out, and I'm going to actually use a measuring cup, which I wouldn't normally do, but just to give you an idea of how much you would want to use if you were doing a single serving size. 1/4 cup. Reach in, take it out, just kind of level it off, dump it into your bowl, easy, done. From there, the only thing that you need to do is boil some water and pour it over. Now, through the magic of Hollywood, I've already boiled my water, and you can use any hot pot. So again, if you're in a dorm room or someplace that doesn't have access to a big stove or a big kitchen, you don't need it. You can also use the stove with a regular tea kettle, but I heated up my water. Do make sure that the water is boiling. If it's not hot enough, the couscous won't really firm up the way you want it to. From here, all I do is take that same 1/4 cup measurement, and I'm going to just put a little bit more than a 1/4 cup. So I let it overflow just a little bit and then dump that in. Once that's done, I can just swirl it around a bit, make sure the couscous is covered, and just let it sit. You can let it sit covered, uncovered. I've done both. Sometimes I use a dish towel to cover. If I have a pot lid, I will put a pot lid over it. It just kind of depends on what's handy. But let that sit for 1 to 2 minutes. Now again, through the magic of Hollywood, I've already done this. So when it's done, this is what it looks like. It looks pretty much like it did when you put the water over it. And as you can see, it's pretty solid. I'm going to say not going to fall out, and it doesn't fall out. So what do you do with that? It says fluff with a fork. I like to use a spoon because I can get in there a little bit better. And you just scrape it around, scrape it off the edges, and it makes this very light, fluffy texture that is really yummy. What did I do with this the other night when I came home? Even though my refrigerator was empty, my cupboard is never completely empty. I always have cans of beans. I opened up a can of beans, rinsed them off, and then added some tomatoes. I always have cans of tomatoes. I heated it up on the stove with a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of oregano. Just let it kind of meld together for a moment on the stove to heat it up, and then ate it. So what does that look like? Here I have my couscous and my spoon. I like using spoons. My beans, in this case I actually Made them myself from dried instead of using canned. My favorite salsa, which is chunky style, lots of big hunks of tomato in there. Take some of that, a spoonful or two, dump it on there, stir it up. And again, if you do have access to some kind of greens, leafy greens are great to throw in here, spinach or even just some lettuce would work. Any kind of extra veggie that you can add in there, and there it is, a complete meal. In mere moments with really no access to much in the kitchen at all. So you can do this, you can make a plant-based meal, you do not have to eat fast food, you do not have to eat junk food. There is plenty of good stuff that you can make at any time in your own kitchen. Tell me about what your favorite recipe is. I'm going to try to keep these to 1 to 3 ingredients, 1 pot, 1 bowl type meals because that's what's easy, and I know that the biggest problem most of us have is how do we make it easy and how do we make it not a big production in order to feed ourselves well. It can be done. Just a reminder, if you have any questions or if you missed our top 10, go back and take a look at the videos for what the top 10 nutrition struggles are. I go through what they are and how you can get around them, over them, through them, and basically solve them. If you're liking these videos, please take a moment to give us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribe to the channel.